Yoongi here and welcome or welcome back to my channel. Sorry for not uploading a video last week, but I have been preparing for this week's special video. We have very quickly approached my 1-year anniversary on K-pop YouTube, and I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much everybody who has supported me and my channel so far. I never expected to grow as much as we have in this first year alone, so I'm really grateful for any love and support you guys have given me and my channel. So to celebrate my 1-year YouTube anniversary, I wanted to try and get you guys a bit more involved with this week's video. I posted a form to my community tab where I was letting you guys send me your K-pop confessions, no matter how big or small, for me to react to in a video. And honestly, I know YouTubers probably say things like this all the time, but I really was not expecting to get as many back as I did, so thank you so much everybody who sent me something. I really enjoyed reading them. Also, some of you guys took that as like an opportunity to compliment me, and it was so sweet, so thank you so much. A lot of the write-ins I received were confessions, but some of them were also unpopular opinions. So because I got a good handful of unpopular opinions, those are going to be in my next video in a few days. In today's video, I'm just going to be reacting to the confessions that I received. Before we start, I think it's more important than ever on a video like this one to have my usual disclaimers. Everything you hear mentioned in this video is both the opinions of my viewers and myself, and I trust everybody to be as respectful as possible, so absolutely no hate was intended towards any artist or individual with this video. I asked everybody to send me their confessions anonymously, so please do not direct any hate towards any of these individuals in the comments. Okay, I am determined to make sure we get through everybody's confessions in this one video, if you guys don't mind embarking on this journey with me, no matter how long. So without further ado, let's get going. I received a couple of confessions that were along the same lines, so I'm going to try and group them together in some sort of way so it makes a bit more sense. The first ones I want to talk about are those of us who went through a phase where we thought K-pop was cringy. I think a lot of us will relate to this. This viewer says, I used to think K-pop was cringy and weird, but now I really like it. And then they go on to talk about the artists they listened to, how they went from only a few to now lots of different artists. And K-pop is truly underappreciated because people only see it as pretty boys or girls dancing, but it's so much more than that. I completely agree. I think from the outside looking in, you can look at any genre and think, oh, it's just metal, it's just screamo, it's just K-pop. No matter what it is, you can always think that as an outsider, when really there's always going to be so much to a genre that you just won't understand unless you're a listener. And I think a lot of us went through that phase. I will admit, I for one went through a phase where I first got into K-pop, I thought it was so cringy. And now looking back, that just sounds so pathetic to me because it's just a genre of music and we have nothing to be ashamed of. On a similar lines, this person says, I'm pretty sure every K-pop stan can relate to this. Before you start getting into K-pop, you were like, that's some pretty lame stuff, and why do you even listen to it if you don't understand? But my friend got me into K-pop before I got into it because of her tastes. And that's exactly the sort of thing it takes to get any of us into it. Like, it can be something as small as a song coming up in your YouTube suggestions like it did for me, or a friend or family member introducing you to a song they like, and that's it. Suddenly your mind completely changes, and I think that's really cool. Oh, and this person said, your voice is great, you should upload more videos with your voice. Thank you so much, that's really sweet of you. I find it really interesting that a lot of us went through this phase where we thought we had to be embarrassed of liking a specific music genre, and although I do think it's got a lot better now, and thanks to more K-pop groups being more prominent in the West, the stigma is not really there as much. There is still a lot of people who look down on people who listen to K-pop because it's music they don't understand, but at the end of the day, come on guys, I think there's a lot of music out there that we don't all understand. You go to a family party and everyone's bopping the Macarena. Do you always understand the lyrics? When Despacito went viral and everyone was grooving to that, who am I? When everyone was dancing to that, suddenly it didn't matter what language it was in because you enjoyed the music, and that's so important. Like these two comments have said, there's so much more to K-pop than just what you understand from the lyrics. The next sort of category, if you will, that I want to talk about from confessions that I got is the complete opposite of being embarrassed by K-pop, but wanting to be in K-pop. And again, I think this is one that a lot of people might be able to relate to. This confession says, I used to pretend to be an idol and dance around my room. I once stopped because my mum saw me dancing to Love Shot. Solid song choice for starters. But yeah, I think a lot of people relate to this. I, for one, love learning K-pop dances. I've never really wanted to be an idol per se. I don't think I really fit the image, but I do enjoy learning K-pop dances and things like that, and it's fun to pretend to be an idol and dance around your room. Similarly, someone else says, I usually act like my friends and I are part of a group, and every time I listen to a K-pop song, I consider myself as the visual, but nobody knows that. Love that last part of the comment. You are the visual. You're all the visuals. And even more so, if you've got friends that are into K-pop, I can imagine it's even more fun to pretend you're an idol. Like, I have a lot of friends now who mostly through K-pop, and in our group chat we have like funny nicknames about like, you know, the rapper, and it's just never been changed. But you know what? It's fun and it's not doing anybody any harm. And similarly, someone else also says, I wanted to become an idol because of the reality shows and variety shows that they participated in. I completely get that as well. I hope it helps to see multiple people confessing similar things to remind yourself, don't worry, it's not weird to have these sorts of things. And when you're so into a culture, it's very easy to get to a point where you're like, oh, I would love this to be my life, because for a lot of us, music is a sort of escapism. We have the polar opposite now, however, which is really interesting to me. This person says, hello, I've been a fan of you for some time and I really enjoy your videos. I just want to say I love your voice. Oh, thank you so much. I became a K-pop stan when I was pretty young. My ultimate group was BTS and still is, and I used to always want them to top first. Like, I would want them to break records and etc. and be first in everything. And then this person also put in brackets, what was I thinking? I was so stupid. Don't worry, we've all gone through that phase where we want our faves to win everything. It's only natural to want your faves to be the most successful. But this person basically says that they would get very annoyed when Blackpink was the first to reach things, or when people would praise them, if they break records and things like that, and they would sometimes leave hate comments. But before this person gets any hate comments down below, please note they did go on to say, now I've matured a lot more and I realised that it was very toxic at that time, and I realised how amazing the members are and that we shouldn't compare groups. I think it really makes you such a bigger person if you can admit when you have grown from your mistakes. So like this person said, they went through a phase where they wanted BTS to be the best at everything and it made them act toxic. And I think what's really important here is that you have learnt from that and you know what's right or wrong now. In life, we do have to go through these sorts of experiences to know better. And I don't think it makes you a bad person for now being able to look back and say, I'm sorry I did that, it was wrong, and now I know better. So of course, we all know it's not right to leave hate comments or hate on other groups. And like this person says, it's better to just not even compare groups. Think of groups as successful in their own entity. Just because one group's successful doesn't mean another group can't be as well. Also, this person says, sorry for any grammar or spelling mistakes. English is not my first language. Please never feel like you have to apologize, either in these confession type videos or in the comments of my videos. I completely understand that English isn't everybody's first language, and I speak really fast, so it's probably hard to understand what I'm saying sometimes anyway. So thank you so much for even trying to comment to me in English if it's not your first language. You never need to apologize for making typos. I want to bring up this next confession I received while we're talking about toxic behaviours within the industry from us as fans. This viewer says, I think internalized sexism made me more critical of and kept me from liking girl groups in the beginning, but now girl groups / female soloists make up 3/4 of my playlists. This is interesting to me because I do feel like as a society sometimes there's a lot of internalized sexism, whether it be within the music industry or within, you know, regular business industries. I've never actually come across somebody who has honestly admitted, I think internalized sexism has made me do this toxic behavior. So thank you for being able to admit that and be able to see past it now that you do like all this music. It's not something that has affected me personally, but I really like that with this sort of video, I've had some people who have given like, you know, funny and goofy confessions, but also people who have taken it as an opportunity to be honest and reflect upon themselves. And I feel like this person has clearly shown another great example of how we can grow during our times as a K-pop stan, and I'm glad this person has discovered a greater aspect of themselves. Okay, I've been so serious in this video so far, guys. This whole next section, I want to talk about a lot of confessions I received, which are about us confessing idols that we used to get mixed up. I think it's brilliant because I used to do this as well when I got into K-pop, and I think it's because it's overwhelming when you're trying to remember so many names, which is completely fine, and it makes me feel so normal knowing that other people have done the same thing as well. So this person says, I used to think that Tae and Kai from TXT were twins, and I've been trying to think when I read through these confessions if I see where this person's coming from. But you know what? The people who we get mixed up, there's no rhyme or reason. Some of the idols I used to get mixed up is unbelievable. Like, I think I used to get most of EXO mixed up. I used to think like Baekhyun was Chen and Luhan was Sehun, and like, you know, people that just don't look alike. But it's funny what your brain tricks yourself into thinking when you're learning names. We have a few Twice ones, guys, and I didn't realize that people got Twice mixed up. I think for me, they all looked very distinctly different from the very beginning. So this one says, when I first watched the Likey MV, I thought Momo was Jihyo and vice versa. I'm wondering if this person thought this from just this video or in general. Was this the first video they saw? I'm not too sure. If they'd seen them in other things before and seen how distinctly different they looked, then maybe they wouldn't have thought this. But if it's the first time you're seeing them, you've got nothing else to base it off. Speaking of Momo, Sorry, Momo, a few people thought you were somebody else. Someone said, I thought Momo and Sana were the same person. I think if you were just judging off their vocals, if you didn't know the group very well, you might think that the voices sound quite similar, so I get why you'd think that. But visually, I do think they look different. Also, I mentioned how someone thought Momo and Jihyo looked alike. Speaking of Jihyo, somebody said, I thought Jihyo was JYP's daughter. This is brilliant. This is brilliant to me because I don't know why you'd think that, and I'd love to know why someone would think that. Is it because she trained for so long? Because that would make sense if she grew up within the company because her dad was, you know, her boss and her dad. Could you imagine being under a K-pop company where your dad was your boss and he was critiquing how you performed? That would be insane. Next confession we have is somebody says, I thought that Mamamoo and Momoland were sister groups or in the same company or something like that, and I thought that 17 had 17 members. We'll address this part before addressing the next part. I get why you'd think that there's some sort of connection between Mamamoo and Momoland because their names are similar and like built in a similar way, and it'd be kind of cute because it would make sense. Mamamoo were kind of like the seniors to Momoland, I think. And this viewer also says, I thought 17 had 17 members. To be fair, you're not wrong because in the beginning, before pre-debut, they did have 17 members, didn't they? And just from seeing that name, you would not be faulted for thinking that they have 17 members, because I feel like any group with a number in the title, this is aside from 127, unless NCT 127 do end up having 127 members someday, that's a topic for another time. If you saw a number in a group's title, then you'd assume that they have that many members, so like GOT7. Yes, they do have 7 members. So something like 17, I'd understand, they must have 17 members. And that was the original premise, wasn't it? It's just they had to change it up a little bit now. I'd have been okay with them calling the group 13, to be honest. And then that'd have been kind of cute, you know, because 13 is normally seen as an unlucky number, whereas obviously it's lucky now because we'd have a group from it. You know, am I making sense? And the next part says, I saw quite a lot of dating articles and videos around before I was into K-pop, and I thought they were all real, but I never shipped anyone. I get why you would think they're real as well, because from an outsider's perspective, how would you know any better? You wouldn't know that there was kind of this culture sometimes of where companies do fake romances. As an outsider looking in, you'd just say, oh, this guy from this group and this girl from this group, they're dating, it's been announced, there's pictures, cool. It's this whole thing that some of us will never really know about, which is fine by me. I personally, not gonna lie, I'm one of those people who don't believe everything they read because I know not to trust Dispatch sometimes because it's very dodgy, isn't it? Whereas sometimes people just find it easier to just believe the article that says, yes, these people are dating, and then just move on with their lives. We do actually have another confession around about the topic of dating, so let's go on to that while we're here. This person says, I ship K-pop idols that are actually couples, for example, Hyuna and Dawn, Crush and Joy, but I stop shipping if they break up, then such as Momo and Heechul, because it's the most respectful thing to do. I used to be one of those fans who at the point was like, why did they break up? I will never believe in love if insert couple here breaks up. But then I realized that's wrong and I shouldn't focus much on someone else's life and just respect their decisions. I like this one. For example, if there's a couple that we know are publicly dating, then it's completely natural to want to ship them and want them to be happy together. But then if they then break up, I agree, it's not fair on them to carry on shipping them. They have chosen to break up for a reason. They're trying to move on and be separated from each other. It must be hard because like what if they ever stumbled across those sorts of videos? It must really hurt them to see things about their relationship that's over. Like, could you imagine if you'd broken up with a partner and your friends spent all day every day commenting on your photos saying things like, oh, I wish you were still with such a person, I will ship you and such a person forever. It makes it really hard to move on from somebody. Like, I really ship couples that are happy together. So I love seeing that Hyuna and Dawn are happy together, but if they did turn around and unfortunately split up one day, that's none of my business. And if they want to do that, then fine. I don't know them well enough and personally enough to carry on wishing they were together. And I wish a lot of people saw that a similar way as well. Oh, we have another comparison one, guys. This is actually amongst different groups. This time, the ones I showed you before were within the same group. This person says, I thought Son from CLC was EU from Everglow. I'm trying to think about this one because I'm a big fan of CLC, so I feel like when you're a big fan of someone, you know them better and like their faces are so familiar to you, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure if I would agree as someone who's a big fan that Son from CLC and EU from Everglow look alike, but at the same time, if you weren't so much a big fan, I get why you'd think, oh, is that girl from that group, and then not realize until you look further, oh my god, it's a completely different group. I think their vibes are different to me, but that's of course just to me. Someone else could think that they pretty much radiate the exact same energy. Oh my god, this confession, right? This next one. When I was scrolling through and reading them all, this one made me like scream laugh. It's my favorite. It's so funny. I used to think ENHYPEN was one of the many NCTs. And you know what? Best part about this one is that it makes sense. Because you know how all the NCT units have sorts of names that are like, you know, NCT Dream or like, you know, NCT U. It would make sense that if they wanted to have a rock subunit, they could call it ENHYPEN. And I'm a huge ENHYPEN fan, so it's even better for me to see people talk about them. But also just in a comparison like this, it's so funny. This next person also put a few confessions in one. So this person started off with some comparisons as well and said, I thought Mingi and Stan from ATEEZ were the same person, WTF. This person must be an A-Tiny now because they probably see that and think, what? Why would I think that? And I'm the same. Like, you know how I said I used to get the EXO members mixed up, and then I became a really big EXO-L, and I just see them so differently, and I'm like, how was I there scratching my brain like which one's Baekhyun and which one's Chen? It's pretty obvious which one's Baekhyun and which one's Chen, you know what I mean? Number 2 is I legit thought BTS released D4, which is Do 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 by Blackpink, because of how viral it went. I wasn't a K-pop stan at the time, so you're definitely excused for being confused. I didn't mean to make that rhyme. Oh. Because you weren't a K-pop fan at the time, so you wouldn't have known any better. But I think if I'm not wrong, Do 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 was the first Blackpink song that did really well in the West. So it would make sense as a non-K-pop fan to assume, oh, is this viral K-pop song another BTS one? Because there's a few BTS songs that had already done well in the media. And then it's like, oh, it's by a girl group instead, it's somebody else. So I get why you think that. With some of the comparisons, although I can't visually see them, with this one, I visually understand it, you know? Number 3 and 4 are interesting because it's about hating groups for either knowing the reason or not knowing the reason and then starting to stan them. So this person says they used to hate Stray Kids for they don't know what reason, but now they're the alt boy group, and they used to also hate Luna because of people saying things like stan Luna or we're not going to talk, or say Luna and we're not going to talk, and it got annoying, but now I've gotten into Luna and they're one of my alts. I must admit, at the time when I was in stan Twitter, it was very much in that culture and time of stan Luna, and it really, really irritated me as well. People are going to comment on this video now and say stan Luna, aren't they? And it's just one of them things where stan culture sometimes can ruin things for people, and we need to be careful what we do and what we say. Not liking a group and then them becoming your alt boy group is so understandable. It's not that I disliked Stray Kids, because I've always never had a problem with them, but I've only recently really started to enjoy their music. Number 5, this person also said, I do not like aegyo at all, even the non-forced ones, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm the same. I recently released my video, things that K-pop stans like that I don't like, and I mentioned in there as one of the first points that I don't like aegyo, and a lot of people in the comments said they don't like it if it's forced, or they understand and they don't like it either. I genuinely mean that I don't like it. Like, even if an idol wants to do it, it makes me cringe personally, but that's just my opinion. And this person has said the same, they don't like it either. Even if it's not the forced ones, they still don't like it. And the last one, they said number 6, I don't know what else to say, have a good day. Thank you so much, I hope you are watching, have a lovely day as well. These next few confessions we're going to talk about are ones that people might take offense to. We're talking about people disliking idols based on image and things like that. This next one says, I don't think Hwasa is ugly by any means, but everyone on K-pop Twitter thinks she's stunning and I honestly don't see it. But I can't say it's because people have accused me of body shaming or making it about other things, and I'm just like, am I the only person who doesn't find Hwasa overly attractive? Like, yeah, she's pretty, but I don't know. I'll start off by giving my personal opinion, but it's not all about that. I personally do think she's very, very pretty. But things like somebody's beauty is very subjective, meaning that it can be completely influenced by personal tastes. So for this person to say that they don't think Hwasa is ugly, but they just don't find her drop dead gorgeous like some people do, I don't see a problem with that. That's fine, that's their opinion. And like they said, they can't really say things like that because people do accuse them of body shaming or making it about other things. And unfortunately, that is the culture of K-pop stans sometimes, which I'm not a fan of, where you cannot give any negative opinion on somebody without it being, oh, you're a hater because of this, that, or the other. This is just their personal opinion. That is why I start all my videos pretty much by saying these are just my opinions and there's no hate intended towards anyone, because a lot of the things I talk about in my videos are very subjective. Music and choreographies and idols, they're just my opinions, and I'm never trying to hurt anyone's feelings. And I think a lot of the time as K-pop stans, we are coming from a good place where we just want to be honest and say, I personally don't like this song or this person's image, but somebody always takes it very personally. And I don't like that people feel like they can't share their opinions sometimes. I'm not saying we should just all go around and say, I think this person's ugly, I want to say this, and I want to be nasty because I can, it's my opinion. Of course, we've got to be respectful, like, we can't start getting cheeky and just being horrible, but things like this person has said in such a respectful way, they're not trying to be horrible, it's just a personal opinion. I hope that makes sense. Am I rambling? Speaking of talking about looks being subjective, this person next says, I used to think that Rosé wasn't that pretty, or at least like the pretty one of the group. But after her solo debut, I realised how beautiful she is, like her visual is so angelic. And I really like this point that, you know, you can change your mind. Like, it's normal to change your mind about people, and as we grow, your tastes will change as well. So somebody you found attractive when you were 15, you might not find attractive when you're 25. It's gonna be a completely different stage of your life. And that's what it takes sometimes to see people in a different light or way, to change your thoughts on them. The next song is talking about hating, and this person says, me and my friend hate Jennie, of Blackpink I'm guessing, because of bad experiences with an ex-friend. And I'm sorry that you've had to go through this for starters if you're watching this video, but I really hope that it doesn't alter your perception of people in future. I'm not sure, of course, what you have been through, but I really hope that it doesn't stop you from letting yourself enjoy things, you know? I feel like a lot of the time in the past we have had bad experiences that personally will alter our perception of things, and it can make us turn ourselves away from certain songs that give us bad memories, turn ourselves away from artists that give us bad memories. But I hope you personally don't feel like you can't enjoy things because of reasons beyond your control and you want to. If you just genuinely don't like someone because you don't want to, that's fine, that's your opinion. As long as you're not being hateful or rude towards them or anyone who likes them, then fine, do you, you know? But if you're hating on something or someone because of reasons you think are beyond your control that aren't, I really hope that someday you manage to soften up a little. I hope this makes sense and you understand where I'm coming from. Oh, we have another one about aegyo. Okay, this person says, I've been into K-pop for years at this point, and I still can't get used to aegyo or the type of group greetings we see before performances in shows like the Produced series. This is a really good point, you know. It's not really that normal to have in-depth greetings, you know, for artists in the West. So say, for example, back in the day, you'd get, hi, we're One Direction. Hi, we're NSYNC. I don't know, you know. They would never go in depth and be like, have a slogan and then say, hi, we are whoever, and then introduce themselves individually. I think it's the first time I've ever seen a slogan introductions in K-pop, and at first it did take me aback. I was like, oh, that's different, but it's kind of nice to me. I like that it makes things seem like, you know, formal and official, that that's unique to them. But I understand completely not being able to get used to aegyo. I will never get used to it either. I completely understand that it's a cultural thing, and I got a lot of comments on my things I hate that K-pop stans like video telling me that aegyo will always be here because it's a cultural thing, and I completely understand that. I'm not saying that it needs to stop. The world won't stop turning just because I don't like something, but I'm in the same boat as this confessor. I will never get used to aegyo. This next confessor has put a trigger warning at the start of their confession for mentions of depression, so thank you so much for that. I will make sure to put the end of the chapter for this part of the video for the end of this confession if you'd rather skip past it. But they have said, I used to love K-pop like a lot, to the point where it was very unhealthy and it made me depressed and unhappy to the point that I hated it. But I'm happy that I like it again and don't overdo it now. Remember, K-pop is not your life. This is a really great one, I feel, because whenever you're a really big fan of something like us as K-pop fans, it's quite easy to forget that it has become a very big part of your life and you don't even realize that it's happened. And sometimes we can get very wrapped up in the toxicity. I remember when I was on Stan Twitter, it did make me really miserable sometimes. I met some amazing people and I made some lovely friends, but some of the people I came across were horrible, and it's one of those where you shouldn't let it affect you, but it's hard not to. But like this person said, K-pop is not your life. That's a really great point. It may feel like it sometimes. It might be your biggest interest, it might be where you met all your friends like me, it might be something you really enjoy, and that's great. But if you ever feel like it's getting to a point where it's starting to negatively affect you, please, I beg you to step back. It is not worth your physical or mental health, and if something is really making you feel miserable, you need to separate yourself from the situation. K-pop is a genre of music. It's supposed to be fun and it's supposed to make you happy. And if it's not, then something really needs to be reviewed. So thank you so much for submitting this one because it's such an important thing to address. We have a couple of confessions about ENHYPEN, guys, and I have to share these. This person says, I found out literally 2 days ago that it's ENHYPEN and not ENHYPEN. Like, I've been pronouncing it in my head every time I see it. Me. Honestly, me, guys, because for some time I was calling them ENHYPEN. And even when I started seeing it written as ENHYPEN, my brain would still go, no, it's ENHYPEN. It has to be. It has to be ENHYPEN. Even though I know better than it's not. It's really hard to get yourself out of that sort of logic, even more so when they kind of have this like hyphen theme going in some of their songs. Like, you know, when they debuted with Given and Taken, and now they've got, you know, like Drunk Dazed, Tame Dash. It made so much sense that they were called ENHYPEN. Somebody else also says, I'm so uneducated when it comes to knowledge about ENHYPEN, if that makes sense. It does, don't worry, it makes complete sense. For example, I thought their fandom name was Eugene, I thought Jake and Jay were the same person, I don't know Nikki was Japanese, etc. and things like that, but then they said I'm not an engine, so that's why. And you know what, that's completely fine. I think there's so many groups in K-pop that it's only natural a lot of us won't learn everything about all of them, and it seems like, oh my god, I'm so far behind the mold when everyone seems to know everything about a certain group, but don't worry, you're not the only one who are in this position. I don't know a lot about ENHYPEN either, but it's just because I don't really stan them. You can't be expected to know everything about everyone in every group, especially when you don't stan them. It's not fair to yourself. There's groups that I stan that I don't know everything about because I don't have the time to, you know, look back at the history and stuff, especially when I haven't followed a group since debut. And it can make you feel guilty sometimes because you don't feel like the best fan you could be, but I promise you that is not the case. I also have another confession here about ENHYPEN. I really like that I've got a few about the same groups. It's really interesting to me to see who my viewers view, if that makes sense. And this one says, so I'm a huge daydreamer. And when I got really into ENHYPEN, I used to create a storyline where I was part of the group and just basically daydreamt about my life being an ENHYPEN member. It sounds so delusional, I swear to God, it's very embarrassing, but it's the only way I can escape from reality. You don't have to apologize for things like this. It's not embarrassing to admit that you have some daydreams sometimes, especially when you're so into a group that you stan. My friends and I, when I was young and first getting into K-pop, used to joke about, you know, being friends with groups and things like that, and you know what people are like in real life. And as a fan, it's natural that you kind of have this connection with groups to make you sometimes imagine things, especially when we watch them on variety shows, and you can kind of imagine what people are like in real life and what their personalities are like and things like that. But like you said, it's your escape from reality, and I think it's important sometimes that we do have an escape from reality that isn't harming anybody. And if it's just your own personal daydreams about being friends with a group and, you know, what lines you would get in their songs, then I don't think you're doing anyone any harm. This next one is about BTS. This next confessor says, I just can't live without BTS and K-pop in general. I've recently lost friends and K-pop is the only thing keeping me sane. I spend all day watching K-pop videos and don't go out, which isn't healthy at all, but I just can't help myself. Sorry if this is going off track, I just wanted to write this somewhere. Please never apologize if anything you say goes off track, and I feel really honored, honestly, that you chose to mention this to me, because I really appreciate that people feel like this channel is a safe space for them, and I always want you to feel like that. But I understand this person being in that stage of their life as a K-pop stan where it kind of feels like it's the only thing you have, and I feel like a lot of us will relate to this. I know I sure have, and I'm really sorry that you are going through this. I think having escapism is a completely normal coping mechanism for a lot of people until you find that thing in your life that gives you more joy and fulfillment. I've done it a lot myself personally when I've been in jobs and relationships that haven't been the most positive for me. I think it's really important to know that you're not the only one in this boat. Find people with a similar interest who understand what you're going through and understand where your love comes from. So if we aren't already mutuals on Twitter and you see this, DM me, let's be friends. I would hate for anyone to feel like they don't have someone to share their enjoyment with. Please remember, I'm always here if you need me, no matter how big or small. This person in the next confession says, I cried during Kim Taehyung's death scene in Hwarang. I know that was the drama that he was in, but I'm not gonna lie guys, I haven't actually seen the drama. I think if I'd have watched it, I'd have probably cried. And hey, it's testament to how good an actor he is if he made you emotional during the scene, and that's great. Sometimes shows and scenes can develop so well and build up such an angst that it's only natural that you'll get emotional when the death actually happens. If an animal, for example, was to ever even be ill in a TV show, it gets me emotional because I'm emotionally attached to animals. So if you're emotionally attached to someone in real life and then you see them acting, I get why you would also be emotional about that. The next one is another one that is so funny, it's unbelievable, I love it. It's one of them where I've never thought about it myself, but it makes sense. This confessor says, when I first became an ARMY, I would always watch BTS's music videos and some of the comments were about Jimin. For some reason, I thought they meant jamming, like jamming out to the song, so I thought, how are all these multiple ARMYs making the same typo? That's brilliant. I completely get why you would see that. As someone who's never come across the name before, and like you're new to the group, you don't really know the names that well yet, and everyone's saying Jimin, you're like, how's everyone making the same typo? It sounds like the sort of thing I would do, you know. I'm surprised I haven't. Thank you for sharing that with me, honestly. I don't even know what else to say other than thank you. And this next one is, I thought stage mixes were real. That's brilliant. This is brilliant to me because I love watching stage mixes. I probably watch music videos once, and then every other time I watch the song on YouTube, it's always a performance from a music show or another variety show or something like that. And I love stage mixes. Sometimes they're edited really well. Like some of the people who edit these, they make them look like magic tricks. You know, the transitions they do? They're so smooth. And you could blink sometimes and not even realize what you've missed. So it's really great that someone has said they thought they were real. Did anyone else ever think that when they've watched them? Please let me know. Oh, the next one, someone has talked about their first exposure to K-pop. This person says, besides Gangnam Style, my first exposure to K-pop was in Fortnite, Love Scenario by iKON. Not to sound old, but it's a game, right? Yeah. I've never played Fortnite, so I'm not sure what it is, or if there's music involved, where it is. But I love that Love Scenario was your first proper exposure to K-pop aside from Gangnam Style, because I feel like for a lot of us, Gangnam Style would be our first exposure. It was for me for sure, so I get where you're coming from. But to have Love Scenario as your first K-pop song, that's such a good song to start with. Like, what a solid start. And I love hearing people's K-pop origin stories. The next one is talking about, sorry, it's just brilliant that it's in all caps. I love that when something's in all caps, it's like this person had to rush to tell me this. When I was new to K-pop, I thought idols have to have piercings, and if they don't pierce their ears, they can't be idols. I love this person's put this with like a keyboard smash as if they're like, oh my god, I can't believe I thought this. Things we think in the beginning are so funny. I didn't know anyone ever thought that. It's something I've never even thought about, which is impressive. Could you imagine an industry where you have to have your ears pierced or else you're not allowed to perform? Can't be a singer. Like, that's crazy. Very dystopian. Next confession, somebody says, I somehow never managed to get into 17 and now they're my ults. I think this brings us back to the one that we mentioned where we said that somebody didn't like Stray Kids for some reason and now they're really into them, and same for Luna. And this happens for some reason. You think, I'm never going to get into this group and I don't know why. And then something clicks someday. And I did the exact same with Girls' Day. You know how they were around for years? I think I only started paying attention around I'll Be Yours, which is so sad. But when the song came out, I thought, I really like this song. Let me find out more about this group because I like some of their other songs. And then I got really into them and I watched the TV shows that they did. And it's great knowing how like suddenly you can go from being like, oh, whatever, to then it completely changing. Okay, the last confession we're going to look at actually comes from a list of 12 confessions which somebody really kindly sent me. 11 of them I'm actually going to address in my opinions video, but the last one, number 12, I do want to talk about because it is definitely a more personal confession, I think. I'm going to put it on screen if you guys want to pause and read it in full, but I will basically summarize it. This viewer says, this is something personal and it's just something I feel, but I feel disappointed with BTS's rap line. This might sound weird to newer fans, but I stand Namjoon since his underground debut and since BTS started doing those pre-debut diaries, and I saw all the hate Namjoon and Yoongi used to get. I remember fighting people who were saying that idols can't be real rappers. They went through a lot of hate, and I can vouch for this because I was around during those days as well. And then they've said, but the last few years both of them did nearly everything those haters said and proved them indeed that they were true. This makes me feel more disappointed because we suffered a lot back then, but what happened to those days? I kind of feel disappointed because at the end I was wrong when I said Namjoon and Yoongi will prove them wrong, and fighting with them all the time was useless since we lost in the end and they proved everything to be true. I don't hate the boys, I still listen to their old music, but this does make me think a lot, and thankfully more current idols such as Bobby, Zico or Minho prove that rappers can be rappers while being idols, so it's not a controversial topic anymore. So first of all, I completely get what this person means. Back in the beginning of the BTS days, we used to have a lot of people who would say, oh, Yoongi and Namjoon are not real rappers. Not anymore, even though they used to do a lot of underground. They can't be idol rappers. But that stigma, like this person has said at the end, has gone away a lot more nowadays. And now I think this person is more making the point that Namjoon and Yoongi aren't as connected to their roots anymore, whereas a lot of idol rappers such as the likes of Minho and Bobby still are. And I think this honestly just come down to BTS's growth and their size of success now. Because they are reaching out to a more global market, I don't think they have much of a choice other than to appeal to that market more by singing and rapping in English, maybe doing things that aren't so much their raw style. And I get what this person means. It is disappointing in the sense of you do feel like we fought a lot back in the day to protect them and to tell everyone that they would prove them wrong and become these fierce rappers, for them to now do a lot of, you know, stuff that isn't in touch with their true style. But to be honest, personally, I think they already proved everyone wrong by becoming famous idol rappers who were able to succeed as both idols and rappers at the same time. And now they have no choice but to branch out and reach a further market because that's what the people want. I don't think they have much choice over it. The people and the company want them to promote in the West. I'm not sure if this person just means they feel like they've lost touch with their original style by doing English music, or maybe just over the few years in general, even with their Korean discography. But I feel like that's the natural part of success for anybody. You kind of get swept up with it and you have no choice but to give the people what they want. But this opinion again is one that I would love to hear people's thoughts on in the comments. Okay guys, and that is it for today's video. I have been recording this audio for over an hour. My throat hurts, my bum is numb, you know, all the usual. But thank you so much for watching if you got this far. Hopefully the video won't be an hour when I'm editing it. Again, I really appreciate everybody who sent me confessions. If yours didn't appear in this video, it will be in the part 2, which is where I'm talking about my viewers' opinions rather than confessions. So please stay tuned for that. I will upload that in a few days, hopefully. If you enjoyed this video and you would like me to do more sorts of videos where I involve you guys guys because I really enjoyed making this one. Please give it a thumbs up and comment down below your confessions if you didn't get a chance to leave one, or any of your thoughts on the ones mentioned in this video. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, then you'll be the first to hear whenever I upload. And as always, my Twitter username will be on screen. I always follow back fellow K-pop stans, so let's be friends. Okay, and that's everything. Thank you guys so much again for your love and support, and I will see you next time. Bye guys!